What up, boys? We are back again. I got a little thing here about. I just I haven't found like a super great list, and even Wikipedia it doesn't have like a fully like solid list of things here. I want to talk about Contact, the book by Carl Sagan, and the Fermi Paradox. So the Fermi Paradox is essentially the idea that the universe is so big with so many possible planets that could harbor life, and yet we don't see anyone else out there. We still haven't even found unintelligent life, much less intelligent life. So I wanted to kind of make this list and kind of put out another sort of solution to the Fermi paradox. There are a number of solutions here, and I'm you just got the full list here. You can go through it if you want. Just X out of the video. I don't care, but I just kind of wanted to walk through these and just take a look at each one just briefly because there's a lot. And this there are supposedly like I don't know 100 solutions or something to the Fermi paradox, but honestly, they all kind of boil down to the same sort of thing. And I couldn't find like a very good list. I don't know if there's somewhere I could publish this somewhere or something, just to get like a concise list of sort of and all of these, by the way, sort of like some of them connect to each other. They're not necessarily like exclusive. So a bunch of these could be true at the same time, and they could even be true like connected to one another and like kind of affect each other. So this isn't like a anywhere near an exhaustive list, but this is just sort of the idea. This is sort of a I gave each one like a title. Some of them have titles, not all of them do. I tried to give each one like a cute little title and just imagine like hypothesis after each one. So I'll say that, but I don't have it in here because I didn't want to put the same word over and over and over and over. But so yeah, let's get into this. So the Fermi paradox. Why don't we see alien life when the universe is absolutely enormous? What's going on here? And this kind of stems from there's going to be some spoilers here for the book Contact, possibly for the movie too. I It's been a while since I've seen the movie. The movie is really good with Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, Rob Lowe. Um, I can't really remember who else was in it, but the one guy who plays the guy like her Ken, I think her like not her love interest. Rob Lowe is actually the guy who technically played her love interest, which she was in love, kind of in love with the guy Matthew McConaughey played in the movie, but in the book it's a little different. But yeah, doesn't really matter. So it's a good movie though. But the book is, I think, especially with the ending part, is a little more thoughtful. It's not as cinematic, but it is certainly very interesting to think about. I mentioned this in the last video I did about Hauser David's list of stuff, talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson's sort of mistakes that he's made throughout the years. Um, Go check it out. It was just fun to just kind of react to this like list of stuff. But this is I've got a list for you here. This is just a list of kind of items. I don't know if you can see that super. I'll try and zoom in as much as I can before it gets just out of hand. There you go. What the fuck is this? Whatever. Um, so so the Fermi paradox, like again, it's just sort of a thought experiment. It's sort of a not an experiment, but it's sort of a just an idea of like why wouldn't we see intelligent life somewhere when it's clearly there's enough space out here for multiple. If you've ever heard of the oh shit, I'm gonna blank on the name right now. Of course, the Drake equation, where Drake kind of put out this sort of a little bit of thought experiment about like, okay, if you had certain conditions, given all these conditions here, you kind of multiply all these like probabilities together, you should be able to get a number of like how many intelligent life forms there are out there or in the galaxy right now. And I think it's very easy to come up with something like 10 in that equation without being too crazy, and yet we haven't found one even in our own galaxy. So even our own solar system, we haven't even found life, much less intelligent life. So and when I say intelligent life, I don't just mean like life that's like self-aware. I mean like life that can actually like transmit its self-awareness to everyone else. Kind of put it out there that hey, I'm a thing. Like why, hi, how you doing? Um, so why would that be? Let's go through this. These are the possible solutions to the Fermi paradox. The first one here, rare earth, and the first and second kind of go together a little bit, but rare earth, intelligent life is simply just rarer than we think. It's like intelligent life just for some reason is just not that common, and we may be the only ones. There could be others out there that are intelligent, but they haven't reached the sort of technological level that we've reached, so they can't even possibly communicate. And that's again, all these kind of there's some of these, a lot of these that kind of go together. So it's not, this isn't like an exclusive thing. Like just because one thing sort of is a solution to the Fermi paradox doesn't mean that none of the other things are possibilities. Like two or three of these could be true at once, like for sure, or many of them could be true at once. So that leads us into firstborn. Earth is the first planet with intelligent life. Um, that could be true. We just don't know. Like we just don't know. So we have, you know, if we are the first ones, because we just not that long ago we found a something on Mars that we think, well, on Earth, this feature that we found, it was some sort of like chemical geological type thing. Uh, we found it on Mars, and the only way that it's created on Earth is through life. So we may have sort of found life, ancient life anyway, in the solar system, but we just don't have evidence of actual life anywhere besides Earth. So it's possible that Earth was actually seeded somehow through like comets that may have life on them, or may have at least the very basic things that create life, but we just don't know. So rare earth and firstborn kind of go together. Rare earth hypothesis, firstborn hypothesis. And then we've got the great filter hypothesis, which essentially something causes most or all intelligent life to disappear. You like, there's always like like before some like before a species can actually get to the point where they can transmit, "Hey, I'm here. Look at me." They ended up getting hitting. They end up getting hit by a comet and destroyed, or an asteroid and destroyed. Um, and there's just nothing you can really do about that. I mean, it's just sort of Pri and this is probably a good candidate for, the Fermi paradox. It's kind of a it's a like, rare earth, I don't think life is necessarily rare, but I think life existing for long enough to actually send something out, and let themselves be known to someone who's close enough to actually get that message. I think that probably is pretty rare. It's kind of like I said, these kind of not all these aren't like what do you call it? Exclusionary I forget the term I was looking for just now. But just because one is true doesn't mean one of the other ones isn't true. Right? If you can think of that phrase, you know what I mean. So like firstborn kind of goes along with rare earth. Great filter kind of goes along with both of those. Maybe there is no other intelligent life aside from Earth, or besides Earth, but rare earth is a I don't think it's a good possibility. I think there's definitely somebody out there besides us. I just think there's got to be. But I think that the great filter is it's very enticing because it is like when we look back at the history of Earth, like the dinosaurs got wiped out by a giant asteroid, and it's very hard to avoid that sort of thing until you develop the technology to actually help you survive. So yeah, but moving on from there, we've got self-deletion. This sort of ties into the great filter as well. Intelligent life is destined to destroy itself or be destroyed before discovery, which again, be destroyed. That could be part of the great filter. Destroy itself. Maybe they don't have like a slew of natural disasters. Maybe they end up blowing themselves up with nukes. Who knows? So that kind of ties back into some of these here. Uh, and this isn't. necessarily. I like this one too. I like self deletion. Great filters. Good. Firstborn. I don't think we could be the first, but I don't think we're the first. Like especially like life in general, because the Earth is what 4.3 billion years old, and life formed something like what 2.5, 3 billion years ago. Like life was already here. So I don't think life is that rare, and I don't think that Earth is the firstborn as far as intelligent life. I think there's other people out there somewhere, but it's very difficult to find people. I think so. It's that's self deletion. Like, are we gonna? And this doesn't seem that impossible, especially like today, the Cold War, like everything that's happened on Earth, like with people fighting over ideas, over land, that kind of stuff. It's not hard to imagine that. But moving on, I don't want to kind of run through these because otherwise I'm going to talk forever, and this video is going to end up being over an hour long. I just wanted to be a little slightly interesting, and kind of skip through this and get to kind of my point. Um, Berserker. So this is the Berserker hypothesis is like the idea that von Neumann probes kill off intelligent life. So this could be for a number of reasons, and this gets into the next one as well. So von Neumann probes are basically just self-replicating probes. So you've got a bunch of, maybe not probes necessarily, but just self-replicating machines that um, they basically they you start with one, and it just sort of keeps replicating itself, and then replicates and makes other things, and this could involve some sort of AI, which of course today we've got AI popping up all over the place. um, but this I don't think this is super likely, but I mean it could be certainly possible in certain places. But the idea that von Neumann probes are going to keep continuing on without some sort of intervention throughout, the entire universe. That's kind of, I don't know about that, but maybe one galaxy in particular, this could be happening. So you kind of want to avoid that. But yeah, uh, but that's an interesting thought. This comes from I think a book series called like the Berserker series, something like that. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, but this is like a sci-fi series, I believe. I've never read it, so I admittedly can't discuss it in full, but I probably should go read it because it sounds kind of interesting. Um, so then we've got Dark Forest hypothesis. This actually popped up out of was it Three Body Problem? Is that where it came from? I can't remember. The name may have popped up out of the Three Body Problem or something like that, which was a like a book, or yeah, it was like a book series that became like a Netflix show or something, where basically, yeah, communication is dangerous, so no one tries to do it because there are other civilizations that will destroy you if they hear you communicating because they're afraid that you're going to kill them first. So first strike kind of goes back to self deletion with like mad mutual assured destruction. You just sort of you just try and take everybody out, all the possible competition out before they take you out, because there's only so many resources in the universe, in the galaxy especially. So yeah, that's kind of a sort of a way to keep other intelligent life from trying to overtake you. You just throw the first strike, throw the first blow. Interesting thought. I don't hate this, but I feel like we've already communicated enough that it sort of makes this kind of null and void. But yeah, I don't know. Non-expansionism. So this is the idea that intelligent life just can't expand very far. So due to resources, or just their limited intelligence, possibly they just can't get far enough in their galaxy to actually find other intelligent life. This is maybe not sort of like us. We haven't gotten very far at all. We've really not gotten out of the solar system, so we really have no idea. Like there's a couple of things like Project Longshot, the idea to basically build a giant laser or maser and send probes, use it to push probes via relativistic, photon like momentum, push probes like into towards other stars and other star systems, and actually try and find some data there to see if there's other intelligent life. But it's just we possibly just can't. I mean, right now we just haven't been able to do that. I mean, hopefully we will at some point because we could get data back within our lifetime. So if you get the little tiny probes up to relativistic speeds, you could easily get that back in like a decade with the closest star. I mean, yeah, it's doable, but maybe there's some reason that we just can't. Well, right now we just don't have the resources or the actual wherewithal to say, hey, we need to send probes to other star systems because it's really important. Right now, we're still trying to explore our own solar system because we're still kind of young, so relatively. So yeah. Isolationism. This is intelligent life chooses not to expand very far. So intelligent life sees that there's all this space out there that they can expand into and go and discover, but they just choose not to for whatever reason. There's not really any sort of reasoning behind some of these. It's just they either decide not to, or sometimes their resources, don't really allow them to. But which goes back into non-expansionism. But they just kind of choose to stay more isolated because they have enough resources in their local area, and they don't want to waste all that trying to explore some other areas that they don't need to. So they just stay isolated. Which virtualism. This is the idea that. Intelligent life decides to live in virtual reality. So they are physically in this universe, but they choose to essentially lock themselves into a virtual reality where they can emulate another universe and basically just do whatever they want. I mean, as long as they can, that would take a lot of automation. That involves a lot of stuff. So that this one I don't think is probably that realistic, but there might be one. You never know. You never really know. People have been trying to sort of put themselves into computers for a little while now. You've got certain people that are the idea like futurists. They call them. They want to put their brain into a computer so they can sort of virtualize themselves. But is that really still you in the end? I mean, biology and technology kind of they sort of go together, but it's very difficult to kind of meld the two without it a lot of philosophical questions coming up. So, yeah. Informationism. This is the idea that intelligent life chooses to send information instead of matter. So it's possible that people are sending, or people, in other intelligent extraterrestrials are sending information instead of actually coming to visit us. Um, so of course we got a lot in the news, especially lately about UFOs, and this has been popping up quite a bit since Roswell. This has been a very popular thing, but really, is it worth actually coming here because it involves a lot of stuff to actually travel that far across galaxies. I mean, it takes a lot of energy, or you need a lot of energy to create something like a wormhole and Einstein-Rosen bridge to send. So why not just send information that was just sort of more just a casual communicator rather than actually trying to visit. That makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think that interstellar travel is going to be very viable for humans unless we completely destroy the earth and need to go somewhere else. um Moving right along, caveman. So caveman hypothesis: intelligent life hasn't reached the capabilities of interstellar travel. And this sort of goes back to like rare earth, like the idea that intelligent life just is kind of rarer than we think. And they're they basically decide, they either not decide, but their evolutionary path doesn't lead them down the same path as humans. Where humans, we kind of got lucky. I mean, we started off as primate. Well, we are primates, but we started off as more like chimps, living in trees, not really doing a lot, and then ended up on the ground, and then ended up with being the ability to really develop technology, and now here we are. I mean, it's kind of crazy how far we've come, and look how long it took. So again, that ties back, I guess, into rare earth. There just isn't as much uh, evolutionary sort of a push or pressure to get to that point. So it's kind of, again, a lot of these kind of tying together, and they're not exclusive. So um, can easily have multiple ones of these that are true. Deaf ear. So deaf ear hypothesis. This is just the idea that Earth is listening in the wrong way. We've got a kind of way that we listen. A lot of the way, I say most of the way, kind of like when you're looking for, like SETI, when you're looking for intelligent life, humans have sort of decided that the way to listen is through what they call the hydrogen line. So there's a certain frequency that that light will get released when hydrogen goes through, like it's I forget the exact wording of that, but it's basically where the hydrogen gets excited, so the electron moves up in energy level and then drops back down. It releases light at a certain uh, quantized frequency. So that frequency is very specific. It's somewhere along the lines of like 4.2 gigahertz, I think. That is very specific, and actually, most things on Earth will not transmit at that frequency specifically, so that SETI can actually listen for other civilizations out there, which is pretty cool. Although, again, because a lot of stuff like spy satellites, that kind of thing, won't transmit at this frequency because everyone is listening to it. So it's kind of, why would you put it out there for everybody to listen to, right? But at the same rate, there are things that are transmitting at 4.2 gigahertz that are earthly, and clearly someone is transmitting, something at that frequency. So it's not the best method. So it's could definitely be tweaked, and maybe there's something else we can. But it's kind of like trying to find a common language between us and other intelligent life. How do how do you know how to listen? How do you know how to, like, what are you looking for? We're at this point, especially like where we're exploring Mars, we're just sort of trying to um, see what we can see that kind of compares back to Earth, but it's very difficult to do that when everything on Mars seems to be either dead or just not actually like you know organic or biological. So this is sort of that idea, you just don't know exactly what you're looking for, so you just kind of have to look for everything. But we have sort of figured that this one frequency might be the key, but we just still haven't really found it. Except for the one thing where we really found it was the wow signal, which the wow signal, I will say, it was probably not aliens. Okay, it's usually not aliens, but it is the best candidate so far for actually picking up something, some sort of alien transmission. We still don't know what it was. We have no idea. It's probably natural, right? But we just haven't detected something like that ever since, and it's really weird. Um, but I don't know. It's again, there could just be that Earth isn't pointing in the exact same direction anymore, and there's a very specific broadband sort of or not broadband, narrowband transmission that it just if anything, I mean, that's the reason that was called the wow signal, because they wrote down on the paper "wow" exclamation point, because it was very strange to see. It's a very weird signal, and I feel like maybe looking more into something like that. It also came through on the hydrogen line, on the hydrogen alpha line, which is around 4.2 gigahertz. Which again, that's kind of what we expected, but we've never heard the signal again since, which kind of sucks. I mean, if we heard it again, that might be something, but we could maybe figure out what it is if it's not intelligent life. But probably our best candidate for intelligent life so far was the WoW signal. If you've never heard of that, go look it up. It's really interesting. I believe Cool Worlds, I think is the name. Cool Worlds. It's a or no, is it, well, yeah, Cool Worlds. I was thinking of two. There's two guys that kind of remind me of each other. There's PBS Space Time, which is the guy, I can't remember his name, who talks about certain things, and I'm sure he's talked about the WoW signal before. But the one guy that I've heard of or heard talk about the WoW signal, I think it was like a two-part video series talking about, especially the guy Robert Gray, I think it was, who actually wrote a book about it and really tried to get not satellite time, observatory time to actually find it again. Um, Trying to dig into it. I think that channel is called Cool Worlds, another great like cosmology type channel. But yeah, definitely go check those out. PBS Space Time and Cool Worlds, both really cool channels. So that's something there. But anyway, that I spent a lot of time on this because this is a sort of the issue. This is one of the biggest issues: is are we listening correctly? Digger theory. This is their hypothesis. This is the idea that intelligent life chooses to move underground, possibly to escape radiation or something else. So they end up, think of like the Matrix, where they had this giant underground world because aliens ended up, invading and kind of forcing them underground. And the what was it? Zion, is that what it was called? They had this like giant underground like city that was built, and they just sort of tried to live underground when they weren't in the Matrix being awesome, right? so, um, so yeah, I mean this is interesting. I mean this, I guess. Well, I say I call this caveman. This is not the official name for it. This is a lot of these aren't the official names. Some of them are like rare earth, firstborn, great filter, berserker, dark forest. I think that's it so far. The rest of them I just kind of came up. I just kind of gave it a name to kind of make it a little catchy. But like Digger hypothesis is kind of the idea that yeah, they just move underground. They're not necessarily cavemen. They might have the ability to transmit, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe they can't. I mean, there's for whatever reason, but they're living underground now, and they just there's no way you can communicate with a distant civilization that's living underground. So bad reception. This is the hypothesis that interstellar radio signals behave differently than expected. Radio signals are probably going to be the way that we actually end up communicating because they travel really far, and they aren't as affected by stuff like dust and all that. So you can really pick them up fairly easily, but there has to be a really powerful transmitter. But maybe interstellar radio signals behave differently than expected. We've seen stuff with the gravity, like dark matter and all that, that were dark energy, where things seem to behave differently than we kind of expected at a massive scale. So and we aren't sure if those things are just our misinterpretation of physics, or if they're actually some new physics that we just haven't really figured out yet. So that's a possibility. No talkers. Uh, Basically, everyone is listening, but no one is transmitting. Kind of like Earth, we don't transmit. I mean, we transmit a little bit, but the stuff that we transmit is very weak. It's not going to go that far in the end. It's going to be so weak, such a weak signal by the time it reaches anyone else, probably that it's just not going to matter. But this actually ties into the contact thing that I want to talk about in a little bit. We're getting there. Uh, but yeah, if no one's transmitting, everyone's listening. I mean, obviously, you're really not going to actually find anyone. So that's pretty self-explanatory. But zoo hypothesis. This comes down to Earth being studied by intelligent life that doesn't reveal itself. Basically, are we part of a zoo? Are we like like kind of think like Star Trek, where they had like was it like M class planets that they had essentially almost like people on them, but they weren't like spacefaring people, and they ended up not trying not to interfere with them as much as they could because they didn't want to disturb what was going on there. They wanted to just sort of let that civilization play out. And if they became spacefaring, then yeah, maybe you could communicate with them at some point. But basically, it's just the idea that that Earth is just not there yet. And you know that kind of ties into a later one that I'm going to get to. We're almost there. We're almost there. So, planetarium hypothesis is the idea that the observable universe is a virtualization. This kind of ties back into virtualism, which is maybe, but kind of not at the same time. But where only one extant life form exists, or there's only one with only one extant life form. I said that completely wrong. Um, the idea that basically humans are a sort of this is almost ties into zoo hypothesis just a little bit, where basically humans are being observed by people in sort of a planetarium type thing, where it's like, oh, here they have the technology to basically virtualize this giant universe. It's all empty just because they don't want it to get too out of hand, and they just have this one civilization that is Earth that exists, humans that exist on Earth, or maybe it's not just about humans. It could be about just evolution in general, that kind of thing. It could be a this could be a could fall into a number of different sort of categories, but the idea that yeah, Earth, the observable universe is just a simulation, just a virtualization of what life is like if you just put life on one planet, let it sort of form and all that. But it doesn't explain a lot, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of simulation theory just because It doesn't explain much. I mean, yeah, sure, you could say the universe is a simulation, and that seems really like wow, like profound and shit. But I mean, it doesn't explain anything. So if there's no evidence for it, it's just kind of useless. It's a fun like thought experiment, but it's just not useful because we there's no way to prove that. Um, and then of course, finally, this sort of ties back into zoo theory, but I decided to kind of make this a little separate because the zoo theory I kind of define, or zoo hypothesis, I kind of define it as intelligent life doesn't reveal itself no matter what. No matter, even if we suddenly are able to do interstellar travel and that kind of thing, other intelligent life, sort of kind of going back to Dark Forest, they think that possibly communication is dangerous, so they don't try to put themselves out. They don't try to, reveal themselves as much as possible because they don't want to end up in some dangerous situation. Because if you're dealing with an interstellar civilization, they're probably able to wipe you out pretty easily. um, Two interstellar civilizations coming together is going to be like two superpowers on Earth going against each other, like U.S. and USSR. Kind of mad situation where mutually assured destruction. So you just kind of just back off and not really interact with each other. But I kind of had this other idea here, and this really goes back to Carl Sagan and his book Contact. And again, this is going to be spoiler alerty, spoiler heavy. Um, the idea that other civilizations exist and they've been waiting for us to reach a certain goal. So I call it the patient curators hypothesis. I don't think this has ever really been named or like fully discussed. I'm not sure. I haven't looked that much into it, but basically the idea that intelligent life is waiting for other intelligent life to reach a certain technological goal, and at that point they reveal themselves to each other, or the one that's more technologically advanced will reveal itself to the one that's reaching that goal and say, "Hey, join us. We're on a mission here. We're gonna, in the book Contact, again, spoilers if you haven't read it, just kind of get a little spoiler heavy here. But at the very end, Ellie ends up meeting the aliens that sent the signal through the sort of network of different transmitting devices. The one that was at Vega, and there's a network of like wormholes that civilization didn't create. Some other civilization created them, and they just sort of took over, and we're like, oh, okay, we don't know who this other civilization is, but we're just sort of taking over here and providing providing some help to other civilizations that are reaching a certain goal where they can actually talk to us, and we can sort of start to get kind of kick the ball off and get them going. And I mentioned in the last video, I was talking about the transcendental numbers. One of the cool things in Contact, the transcendental numbers, apparently the civilization that reached out to Earth with the instructions on how to build the machine actually ended up, when they brought them to the sort of a ship or whatever you want to, whatever it is, and sort of revealed stuff to them. They basically said, when the one alien was talking to Ellie, was saying, "Hey, we found something. We don't like what." I think she asked him, or asked like like it was like her dad. It was like a sort of a VR version of her dad. Sort of asked him what they thought about like God. Like, is God real? Like, what is all this about? And the alien sort of revealed that the the transcendental numbers, they were still looking into it because they didn't understand it, but the transcendental numbers, after they got so many digits, they've discovered so many digits of certain ones, they found these patterns that showed up and couldn't be dismissed because they were very clearly a pattern that was put there on purpose. And transcendental numbers are a fundamental part of the universe. So if there's a pattern somewhere, it's it's definitely someone trying to send a message. And because it took like you had to get so far out into that like transcendental number for it to actually like give you that, for that pattern to reveal itself. It sort of lent to this idea that people, if they didn't reach a certain level of technology, they wouldn't actually be able to get to that point in the transcendental number to find the pattern. And so the even the people that are that may have created the universe or or done something to it to give it this sort of fundamental properties, these fundamental properties, they clearly knew what they were doing, and that sort of like speaks to like a sort of godlike character that even the life forms that Ellie and her team found in contact, even they didn't know what this was. So um, despite the fact that they were using interstellar travel, they were sort of designing galaxies, and they were able to like hook up to Earth via like this sort of interstellar link via like an Einstein-Rosen bridge. I mean, it was really interesting stuff. It was very the idea was very some of the ideas in that book were very like out there, like they just aren't they might not have been fully like scientific. I mean, it might have just been, of course. I mean, we don't actually know if any of this stuff is real, but it was it was done in a very sort of like obscure way, obscure enough that you didn't really know what was going on, and they were able to sort of hook up to Earth and get this like wormhole set up, which was very interesting. And I don't hate this idea. I like there's this sort of ties back again into maybe planetarium or hypothesis, zoo hypothesis, even like uh, all the way back, possibly like not really dark forest, but it ties back into a lot of these because there just isn't there isn't like exclusion here. Any of these could be possible, and any number of these could be possible all at once. But the patient curators hypothesis, I think, and this is the one that I sort of named myself and sort of kind of I'm kind of positing that this is its own sort of hypothesis. Um, that intelligent life is waiting for us to reach a certain technological goal. Of course, in Contact, this was essentially just radio transmission. Now, this book was written back in the 80s. We had nowhere near the technology we do today, but we've been transmitting radio for a while, and we still haven't actually found anyone transmitting it back at any significant level or with any significant regularity. So, this might fall flat on its face. There's no way to know until we actually find other intelligent life. There's really no way to know if any of these is true. It could be that the first one, rare earth, is just the truth or firstborn. I mean, it's hard to say. We really don't know. That's what makes the Fermi paradox really interesting because it's sort of just this idea that life seems like it should be very common, but it doesn't appear to be because we just haven't detected any other life out there that is trying to at least trying to talk to us. So these are just sort of ideas about like why is that? Because it isn't a paradox in the sense that it can't be true. It's just a paradox in the sense that we don't know why it's true. Like it just is true, but we don't know why. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. So you know, this is I had fun putting this together. I think I'm going to leave it here. Leave any comments below. I'll try to answer them. This is, again, just a basic look at these sort of ideas behind the Fermi paradox, how to possibly solve it, why it may not be solvable. I guess, like, I mean, I guess even if one of these is true, I guess that would solve it. But we really won't know. I mean, there's no way to know, right? Like, no talkers. Like, if everyone is listening and not transmitting, or dark forest, uh, we just we wouldn't know, so it sucks until you actually discover that evidence on another planet, probably around another star. We just won't have any idea, and to do that would be pretty feeble. You just can't. We just can't do that. It's so expensive, and we still haven't sent anything to another star at this point. Um, So, I mean, talk to me when we get to another star. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever really figure out the answer to this, but it's really interesting to think about. Um, until we actually see alien life, we're not going to figure it out. But it's really cool to think about. I like it, and so this is sort of my sort of addition to this idea sort of ties into some other ones here, especially zoo hypothesis. But I just figured that I don't think that Carl Sagan's book Contact has really gotten the attention it deserves. It is a very interesting look at a sort of the discovery of aliens at a global scale, and what humanity how humanity might react to it. And it's very interesting. I recommend you go read it. Sagan has certainly a certain point of view that he's sort of trying to push, but no matter what you think about him or his work, it is still a very interesting story, and the ending is particularly awesome. So I just recommend you go read it. It's really good. It's not that long. Pretty easy. I got through it in a few days. Pretty easy to get through. Just yeah, just do it. Uh, but yeah, that's it. Fermi Paradox, Patient Curators. So yeah, if you haven't read Fermi, or if you haven't read Contact yet, I'm sorry, that was a lot of spoilers just to get through the end of this video. But that was sort of my point of making this video, was that I read that book and was like, I don't think this idea has really been talked about as far as like a solution to the Fermi paradox. So you know. Anyway, hope you had fun. Enjoy. Give me a like, subscribe, comment, whatever the things are. Try, fail, repeat. Not, I didn't think I'd end up making videos like this on this channel, but here we are. So, yeah, have fun. Peace.